I'm very, very delighted to pass the baton to Brad, who has already done this talk for us in Suffolk, and I'm looking forward to hearing it again. And with that, I'm going to stop my share and hand the floor to you, Brad. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. So yeah, I mean, Mike, you could have done this talk instead if you could have already seen it.
No.
So I will be talking about notes today, and I suppose apologies first because I'm going to be talking about it as if none of you have ever used it before, because I think it's one of those Apple apps where it's just there and people use it without actually really taking the time to think about what you can do with it. And so most people have just kind of plodded along using notes in an intuitive way. And it is mostly intuitive, but there are a few little hidden details. So I'm going to go through it from a zero perspective, starting from zero, and literally just explain the layout and just how everything works. And then as I'm going through, please feel free to write a question, and I'll try and answer the questions as they come in. But yeah, let's begin. So I need to share my screen, share everything. Okay, so oops, jumping ahead. So yes. So yeah, I remember when Notes first launched, it was quite a big deal in those days because with the first iPhone, it was one of the few apps that you had on an iPhone. There weren't many things you could actually do with an iPhone other than browse the internet, send an email, and make a phone call. And I remember the first iPhone really being an iPod and a phone squished together, but they've become so much more complicated than that now. And for many people, their iPhone and their iPad is their computer, is their day-to-day device that they use for most of their things. And so Notes for people has become quite a big and important app from its very humble, basic beginnings. So the first thing I'll do is just talk us through the interface. So as with most Apple kind of homegrown apps, you have this kind of three-pane system where you have the sidebar on the left, and then you have this central bar, which is your actual notes, and then the right bar is the content of a selected note. And you can tell which note's selected because it's yellow at the moment. And then I'll just go through the tools at the top. So the first button is just to hide the sidebar, which is quite important if you're on a smaller screen, like a laptop, a smaller laptop. Sometimes it doesn't leave much space for you to see your notes. And then next to that, you've got the two view options. So you've got your list view, and then you also have this more visual view, which I'll talk about later, actually. And then next to that, you've got the bin icon, which, as you imagine, allows you to just quickly and easily delete a note. And then moving to the right, this is where we actually do the kind of creation of our notes. So the first button there is a new note button. So I'm just going to write new note. Oops. Pretty straightforward. The first button after that is your formatting button. So Notes has only really quite recently had more of these formatting options added. I think some people kind of want Notes to be like a fully fledged word processor, but that Pages already exists for that. So Notes is really designed to be a very basic note-taking app. But in recent times, they have added a few more styles in here. So you've got kind of mono-styled and block quotes and things, whereas it literally used to just be bold and italic before. So now when I'm typing something, I can just at any point just change it to a heading, subheading, that kind of thing. And it's quick and easy to do it from there. Monostyled is good if you're writing some code, for example. And it adds that shaded background too, which is quite useful. And then block quote. So this is an important quote. Highlight it. Just adds a grey line. And then next to that, you've got numbered lists or checklists. So this could be literally groceries or any kind of list you want. I'm just going to type some random stuff. And you can tick off those things and they get moved to the bottom, which is quite nice, automatically. And then next to that, we have the table. Now, the table view is very, very basic. It's not designed for you to make a spreadsheet of any kind. It's literally just a way for you to organize a couple of bits of information. So don't expect to be doing any kind of formulas or any more sophisticated things than just literally typing stuff in a box. Really, it's just a grid. It's just a grid for you to kind of lay out some text. So try not to think of it as a spreadsheet. You can still do things like move columns around and add columns and remove columns the same way you would in numbers. But that's where it kind of stops being the same. So that's about as sophisticated as the grid or spreadsheet option is. And then next to that, we have our images or media button. This one's quite important because there's a couple of things in there which people weren't always aware of. So obviously the straightforward one is photos, and that would just launch your photos library and allow you to select straight from your photos. The other one is, the other two are take photos and scan documents. And what's cool about those is if you have your iPhone on the same iCloud account that you're logged into, I don't have that on my setup at the moment because I'm in a different account on my computer. But if I was, then I would be able to pick up my phone and take a photo and have it go directly into this note on the Mac. And then the same is true for scanning a document. So if I wanted to scan a physical paper document, I could just click on scan documents, pick up my phone and take a picture of the document and add it in there. You also have the option, and this is primarily for iPhones and iPads, to add a sketch. And then that would launch the sketch tools that you're probably used to seeing on Notes. Obviously, I'm demoing Notes on a Mac. So obviously the added extra features are use of a pencil, which you can use with an iPad. So I won't be able to easily show you those. But I think most people are kind of familiar with the way they work at the moment. Try out the scanning a document directly into a note. Then we've got the links. So you can add links to a note directly, and it creates this kind of visual bookmark, which makes it a little bit easier to kind of see a link rather than it just being a boring HTTPS blah 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 blah. It makes a kind of semi-visual link. So if I try going to another website, so let's go to my one, shall we? Because that's the active window, it should, when I go to add a link, come up automatically with that as an option. So you don't have to copy and paste. You can just quickly add in the current active link that's in your Safari window. And that just makes it useful for collecting some bookmarks. And then next to that, we have the ability to lock a note. So lots of people, well, actually the worst thing people do, and I'm sorry if any of you do it, is to store their private information and passwords in their contacts app. Lots of people use their contacts app for storing like their bank passwords and login details and things like that. Please don't do that because it's super, super unsafe. It's not protected at all. But what you can do is you can create a private note in your Notes app, and then in that note have all of your passwords and important information. When you lock a note, it gives you the choice. In the preferences, you can change it to either use your computer login or you can set a specific password for a specific note. Now, I suggest people don't do that because it's really difficult. If you forget the password, it's gone completely, and there's no easy way to recover that stuff. But there are ways to recover your Mac password which therefore would let you in to the note. So unless it's something super, super important, you're working for some government agency or something, then I would stick to using your login password as your locking password for your note. But when you do that, so I'm just going to create lock this one now. Got a stupidly long password on this one. You'll see that now it's changed to an open lock, and there's a little open lock next to it on the left. And when I go to another note, it still stays open because I'm in this using session. If I quit notes and go back in, it's locked, and it will auto lock. So you don't have to remember to lock it. It will always auto lock when you leave. And so now if I go back in again, type in my password. So for example, this table would be useful for you to have your kind of, I don't know, your Chase Bank, oops, and then PIN number, whatever it might be. So you can use locking as a way to create a safe storing mechanism for things. Some people prefer a full-on password manager, and I do because I have lots and lots of passwords. But if your passwords are in the 10s or 20s, then you probably don't need anything as overkill as a password manager, and you can get away with just using Apple Notes. And of course, the advantage of Apple Notes is that it's using iCloud to synchronize, so you would still be able to access those notes on all of your devices quite easily. So yes, that's the locked notes section. And then the last button here is the sharing button. And one of the things that you can do is you can share directly a note into other apps. And one of the newest features is you can open a note that you've created directly in Pages, which wasn't possible before for some reason. I'm not sure why. But now if I click on Open in Pages, it should launch Pages. Okay, showing off. And it tries to do as good a job as it possibly can. In this case, it's done a really good job actually, but sometimes the formatting isn't perfect when it opens it in Pages. But do bear in mind that when you open a note in Pages and make any changes, it doesn't save those changes back to Notes. It's creating a separate document for you to save or export or do whatever you want to with. A lot of students use Notes. So it's a great way. I tend to use Notes to draft out an essay, write the headings and everything, and then I'll literally just send it through to Pages to actually start writing, because Pages obviously has a lot more tools for heavy writing, like spelling and grammar checking and stuff like that. So it's it's a great way of, rather than having to copy and paste, which is what I used to do before, you can just directly go straight into a Pages document, which is quite cool. Quite a new thing. I'm racing through this quite fast. Does anyone have any questions at this point? Actually, there's some chats.
If anyone has any questions, please raise your hand. I was lost for a second.
Can you open it? Oh, there we go. Someone says I have a Fathom box in your right corner. Yes, the Fathom box is it's just what I'm using to record our session today and take notes. So ignore that Fathom box. Can you open in Books? Yeah, well, not directly, but if you export your file into Pages, Pages will allow you to save a document into a book format or a PDF, and the Books app will work with both of those. So yes, actually, technically, you can read your notes in Books that way. Could the window be enlarged, please? Which window are you talking about? I'm not sure. You elaborate which window you would like to be enlarged. How would someone get into a note if it's not locked? I don't really understand that question either. Could you elaborate on that one?
Yes, it's Jane. And you were talking about that it isn't secure to put your passwords into a note file. Mm-hmm. And so I was wondering why not, what is the risk there?
Well, just if you leave your notes open on your computer and someone comes along, they can just go into your notes, right, and see whatever's in there.
I see. So it's
So if
as
you
far
lock a
as
note, it means it will auto lock when you leave the notes app, and someone can't then come back and open the notes and just freely see what you've done. So the
perfect.
password will
Thank you.
lock down those notes. So
Okay.
yeah,
Very good.
through
Thank
some
you.
of these questions. Oh, would someone
Great.
go?
Brad,
Assume I go over iPad and iPhone functionalities. I mean, I can show you, but I can't obviously demo iPad and iPhone functionalities through Zoom this way. So I'll show you maybe on a couple of websites how you do some of the extra stuff that you can do on an iPad and iPhone, but I'll wait to the end to do that. So some of these questions I will answer shortly with some of my presentation.
can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear me? Okay, we have a hand up with Jill. Jill, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, I'm watching you on a late 2015 Mac, and I've got an iPhone 7 Plus. So
Yeah.
I'll be able to use all these different steps on both of those, or
I'm not 100% sure about that because it depends on the combination of the device and which operating system you've got it up to. I'm imagining your 2015 Mac won't be going to the current operating system, so some of these things might be a bit different for you. Yes.
Okay.
All right,
I won't be
Mitch,
able to know exactly which bits without studying and finding out which OS has which things.
Okay. Thanks. I'll
All right.
try.
Thank you, Jill. Mitch, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah, my question's on the iPad and the iPhone. I'm looking at my iPhone, and when you went over bringing up a link, posting a link to a note, I'm not seeing that available on
It's
the.
different. It is different on an iPhone. You have to go to the on an iPhone. You do it straight from. Let me just double check. You do it straight from Safari. Go to Safari. So in Safari, you just go to share and then copy, and then you paste it straight into a note.
Okay, thank you.
Let me just double check that there isn't still a different way. More lines and grids. Yeah, so it's slightly different. So you'd have to still copy and paste the. Yeah, so that's just a Mac only feature.
All right, thank you, Mitch. We
Okay,
have one
great,
more
thanks.
hand. We have one more hand up. Pat, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, in my current notes app, which I think is not the new one, when I copy and paste a link, it comes up bright yellow. I can't see that very well. Can I change that color to blue in the new one or my current one?
Good question. There is in the system settings on the computer the option to change the I guess they call it the theme of the computer under appearance. And you've got accent colors. Let's see if that overrides. So, and I'll make my highlight color. Let's make it green. Make that green accent color. Does it change? Yes. So that's changed all the accents in my notes to green instead of yellow.
Thank you.
So you go to system settings,
Yeah.
appearance, and then you've got accent color and highlight color. And they can be different. So you can have green as your accent color, and then you can have another color for highlighting the actual text.
Okay.
And that's universal. So that'll be across the entire Mac, not just in notes.
Okay.
Are you-
Another question. I missed the very beginning of this. How do I get this new Notes app?
It's just built in. It's built into your Mac. So as soon as whenever you update your Mac, it will automatically have the latest.
It says I
version
have
of
version 4.9 now, and that says 2010. This is an
Um,
older laptop. Maybe I can't get it.
well, it's tied to your operating system. It's not something you can download separately.
Oh, I see. The
It
operating
comes with
system
the
is
operating system.
Monterey. It's the latest Monterey I
Yeah,
could
so
get.
you should be up to date then.
I see, but it says version 4.9 2010.
In your about in the notes thing.
Yes, in the about for the notes.
It's very possible that your operating system will not allow you this version.
I see.
Right.
I can get it on the
Right.
new computer.
You'd have to get it
might
with
be
the
time
new
to do
your
some
operating
shopping.
system. Right. And I
Gotta
did
change the color on that link in this old system?
I'm not sure. There was still there, in the older system. Well, if you're on Monterey, Monterey's not that old.
Dinosaur years. If you want to just want to change the color of the text.
Yeah, the link text. The link is in gold and I can't see it very well.
So
When
I think it's the same as what I just showed you, but it looks slightly different, but it's all the same name. So it should still be an appearance.
Okay, I'll try that. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, my mouse is just having problems. I'm just going to try and unplug the power. Okay, that's better. Okay, was there any questions that I missed? I think there's some questions in the text. I'm going to ignore the questions which I'm going to answer naturally in the presentation. So if I don't answer your question at the moment, it's because I'm going to get to it at some point. And the first one was... It's hard to read the notes. Letters. Could you get the notes? Get into the notes again. Is there a big advantage to notes over reminders? Well, they're very different things. Reminders is a specific time-based thing, and it's just a short thing like, I don't know, pick up the dry cleaning. You wouldn't be using reminders to store data or information. It's just for literally reminding you about things. But you could obviously use notes the way that you use reminders. So you like here, I've got a checklist. So some people don't bother using it. I don't really use reminders that much. I tend to just make lists like this. I use reminders when I use Siri to do things. I'll tell Siri to do something and it gets automatically added to reminders. So that's quite useful. But they are very different things. But yeah, some of the capabilities of reminders are in notes. It's being recorded. Don't have a SciComm in notes. iPad 7 Plus. Yeah, so on iPads and iPhones, it's going to be different. I'll just say it one last time that obviously I'm showing you everything on a Mac, so it looks slightly different. So you might have to be a bit more enterprising with where you're looking to try and find the similar things. I think on an iPad you might have to rotate it to see a column view on the left. No handout, columns and table. Can you resize columns individually? I think you can. Let's have a look. Yeah, you got the little button. Whoops. Nope. Okay, let's try again. No, it doesn't look like I can. It's all or nothing. I mean, I did say it's very basic. It's very, very basic.
It is very basic. There are very little options you have with the table.
Yeah, which I think is purposeful because they don't want it to be an overcomplicated app. So it's not a spreadsheet. It's just a way of formatting a bit of text. So think of it as text formatting rather than a spreadsheet. Yes, drag the line between the columns. Oh, let's try that. It's not doing it on mine. But that might be slightly different on an iPad or an iPhone. Resizing by putting spaces in the field. Well, yeah, that's a sneaky hack. If Apple won't let you do it, there's usually a way. Nope, it's not doing it. Yeah. Okay, so I guess we'll carry on.
Yes.
So that's the top of the window. Let me get rid of the chat for a second and make this bigger. That's the top buttons done. The left is where we see our folders. So folders are really quite an important part of notes. By default, if you've set up iCloud, all of your notes will be going into the all iCloud folder. If they're not shared to iCloud, they'll just be in a folder called Notes. So you can still make a note and have it not synchronize to iCloud if you want. And you can create a folder quite easily. It's just File, New Folder. I'm going to call this one Mug Notes. Okay. And so I can go back to my all iCloud and I can move some of these directly into that new folder. And then the number next to it tells you how many notes are in that folder. You've also got the options here, the basic ones like renaming, deleting, and then you can share a folder. I'll show you sharing separately in a second. And then, so that's the folder section on the left. Another folder that you can make also is a smart folder. So if I do a new smart folder, so I can say this will have to have the word Mac. So I'll call this one Mac. Oops. So I want it so that there is a tag. Nope, I'm jumping ahead. Let's say no, I'm going to come back to that because I need to create a tag first. So let me show you tags. So tags is here on the left, and at the moment it's closed. But if I click and open it, so when you're creating notes, you can add tags to your notes by just typing a hashtag, which I always forget on the keyboard. Option 3. So when you type, so I'm going to type in MUG for Mac user group, and you can have as many tags as you want. This one interesting. And do you see those tags then appear on the left? So if I go to another one and add MUG. When I click on that tag on the left, it will show all the notes that have that tag. So tags are a way of kind of sorting things into groups without having to make folders and manually move things into different folders. The advantage there really is that you can have multiple tags on a single document. So you could have that document or that note appear in lots of different areas rather than having to make copies and drag a copy from one folder to another. So I tend to not make too many folders actually. So I tend to just have a folder for personal, folder for work, folder for study. But the actual notes themselves, I don't really organize that much. I just use tags to easily jump to everything of that tag. Does anyone have any questions about tags? Because that's sometimes quite complicated for people.
Bob McKenzie, can you unmute yourself? And
Yeah, this is Bob. Yeah,
Hello.
I do quite like using tags, but I did find out that if you use a tag, you can't lock that note unless there's some way that I didn't find out.
Let's have a look. So let's tag this one locked. And then lock note. Well, that's pretty rubbish, isn't it? Yeah, I guess that makes sense because of course when you're using a tag, it's going to just search and show you data from everything that's there. So I suppose it makes sense, but yeah, it's also a bit silly too at the same time. Can you select more than one tag? Jennifer, can you elaborate what you mean by select?
Well, if you had, like, if you're collecting recipes and you store your recipes in notes and you share them with your daughter,
yeah,
you do, and you want to tag something like all recipes with chicken,
yeah,
and then you could tag something, all the notes that are recipes and that are chicken.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, perfect. Yes, a good example. So I'm going to do exactly that. So I'm going to change this one to, let's do a new note. Let's do this one. Chicken, stew. And let's do another one. And let's do hashtag, chicken. Don't look at my typing, please. And then let's do, I don't know, soup. Oh, no, that's not the shortcut I wanted. And then let's do another one. Oops. So, of course, they're all going to be separate tags on the left. So you've got chicken. So they both appear in chicken because they've both got chicken in. But that's when you would use a smart folder. So if I go to smart folder, new smart folder. So if I want everything that's chicken and contains and is a soup, then you might have several soup apps, you can say, I want these tags to be included in this folder. So chicken and plus. Oh no, well, let me just type it. Soup. Yep, soup. So now I've got a folder which will automatically show everything, which is chicken and soup. So you can have that multiple layer searching, if you like. I like to think of them as a saved search, really. Because when you use anything's when anything's labeled smart on a Mac, it's not really a folder. There's nothing that's really in there. It's just showing you stuff based on that search criteria. Can you control click? Let's have a look. Let's try it. I've never tried that. Oops. No, but you can command click. Well, that's interesting. Go to all. I didn't know you could do that. So if you hold down command, you can click on multiples. So if I do chicken and soup, then yeah, there you go. Well done. Thanks, Tom. Interestingly, you can also I don't know how I minus. Oh, you click 3 times. So you can also say not mug. So it's a little bit more sophisticated than I thought, actually. Yeah, so that's tags and smart folders. Is everybody okay with that, with tags and smart folders?
So far, so
If
good.
not, let me know.
Will do.
Okay, so yeah, with every note that you create, you can actually share it with people quite easily. So you've got the option to right-click on a note and share a note. And you've got a couple of options. You can send a copy, and if you send a copy to somebody, that note kind of, I like to imagine it just gets kind of cut off from you, and it's a completely new note which ends up with the other person, and they have no link whatsoever. So if they start messing around with that note, it doesn't do anything to your original note. It's just sending a whole separate copy. But if you choose collaborate, it means that you can both be working on a note at the same time and adding to it, which is really useful for planning, for any kind of society or organization that you're in, but if you have to work on something collectively. So you have a few options in here. You can change what people can do. So you can have it so only invited people can edit this note, or you can generate a public link. So anyone that has the link can edit the note. And then you can make it so it's view only if you want as well. So they can't actually change anything about the notes specifically. But yeah, that's pretty straightforward. And it means that you can really kind of work together on something, on a project. And then those shared notes that you've got will always be shown separately up here in the shared section. So you can keep tabs on what you've shared or what has been shared to you. And at any point, you can also click up here, and it will show what's going on. Now, if somebody else was also working on a note at the same time, with this participant cursors ticked, I would actually see their mouse cursor as well as mine. So you can actually live see somebody editing the notes as you're working on it. And so because I clicked on show activity, it's also showing me every time someone makes an edit, which is quite cool. So you can really it's quite powerful for collaboration. And then at any point you can go back to managing who can see it and how. You can also have it, it will automatically alert somebody when somebody makes a change or an edit. Okay. Let's see what's next. What have I forgotten? I feel like I've jumped ahead of something. Has chat smart folders views, invite others, scan documents directly. Yeah, so they just made notes in the latest version much more compatible with PDFs. So a lot of people use PDFs to store documents or scans or things like that. One of my bugbears actually is when you scan a document, a lot of people save them as JPEGs, and that's not really great, because if you save a document as a JPEG, it's just a picture. Whereas if you save a document as a PDF, and most scanners have the option to do it as a PDF, it means the text is searchable. So you can search on your computer easily for that content. So always try and scan your documents into your computer as a PDF. So yeah, one of the new features, I need to find a PDF first of all. Let's try and find one. I know, I will go on a round trip. Let's export this to Pages. These are my boring notes. And then export to PDF. Best quality, of course, to the desktop. So if I make a new note and drop in this PDF, you've got a few options. Now, first of all, now it shows the whole PDF rather than just a thumbnail. Before, it would either just show up as a link that you clicked on and then it would open preview, or it would just show a little thumbnail. Now it shows the full PDF inside, and you can even tell it to show thumbnails of each page, so you can quickly go through a very long PDF quite easily. You can also change it to show it as a smaller PDF, because sometimes it can fill up too much of the screen, especially if you're working on something or you don't need to see it all the time, but you just want it attached. You can make it very small even, just so it's just like there. And then you can very quickly and easily mark up a PDF directly in Notes. So markup allows you to annotate and highlight a PDF. So I'll give you a few options. So here I'm highlighting using the highlighter pen. You can also sign a document. So I've saved some signatures from before. Sign it. You can add your own text on top. Oops. A couple of newer features. If you've got this magnifying glass, which allows you to highlight something. So if there's some kind of bit of text or something you really don't like in a contract or something, you can highlight it and say, no, I don't like this bit, change it. You've also got a, is this the redact? No, that's the crop. Ignore that. And then you've got shapes here. So the arrows I find quite useful to point to things, like you need to sign here. And you can change all the formatting of these things with this bar in the middle, so you can change the color and the thickness of the line, or make it a hand-drawn or a dashed line. And then you've got the actual drawing, which obviously on a Mac is quite difficult with a mouse or a key or a trackpad. But with a tablet or an iPad, of course, you've got the Apple Pencil, which makes life an awful lot easier. One of the cool things is you've got auto shape detection. So if I try and draw a triangle, it just corrects it for me. I do a square or a circle. So you can still do some basics quite easily. And then this is just freehand drawing. Obviously on an iPad or iPhone, you'll have a lot more tools when it comes to the drawing. You'll have more brushes available, more pens available. On the Mac, it's a bit more basic. Yeah, so that's annotation. So once I've done that, that then gets saved into that PDF. Now, what's cool with the annotation is it's always saved as a layer above the PDF. So you will be able to remove those things that you've added. They're always editable. It doesn't kind of hard bake them into your PDF. So you don't have to worry about damaging or kind of overwriting something. You can always undo it. So that's how I make notes on PDFs. Any questions about PDFs? Oh, there's a couple of questions I've missed here. To the person who wanted this, oh no, where are notes files stored and can I access them outside the Notes app? Yes and no. They're stored in your iCloud, but they are also stored in a folder that's hidden in your library folder. You don't want to go there because if you mess up one little thing, you can destroy the whole organization of everything. So Apple doesn't want you to ever access the raw data, nor is there ever a need to really, because you can export in whatever format you need. So everything's really done through this interface. So the notes themselves won't be visible as separate files for you. They are available in the library, but that's not somewhere that we advise people to poke around in. So yeah, in the case that you ever need stuff as a file to send to somebody, either share it or export as a PDF, and do it that way. But yeah, they don't exist as separate files. Okay. So let's go back. What have I jumped ahead again? Yeah, so one of the newer features of iPhones, which is quite useful, as well as scanning, you can just copy text directly into something. So I can't really show you with a phone. Text detection. Whoops. So if you just, I don't know, if you're reading an article and you just want the text from that article, you don't need a copy of that page. You don't want all the other rubbish that's around it. You can just hold up your phone and your phone will automatically detect, and it'll have this button here. This little button will float and it will tell you when you tap on it, it will highlight text in whatever you've got kind of in your camera space. And you can just copy and paste that straight into a note or into anywhere else actually. So that's a really cool feature that's on iPhones. I think that's from the last maybe three iPhones can do that. Oh yeah, an iPhone XS or later. So it's quite a few, last 5 phones. So it's called live text. So live text allows you to just instantly grab some text from anywhere where you can use your camera. And what's cool is it even works in all these different angles. So it doesn't have to be perfectly lined up or anything like that. And it even works with handwriting in some examples, which is quite kind of crazy. I attached a folder with its PDFs in it to the applicable note. Oh, sorry. So did you mean, where are the notes files? Did you mean the PDF files or the notes files? Or is that two separate?
Rob, can you unmute yourself, please?
Actually, I was just playing around with getting PDFs, and I had like 52 PDFs on photography, and so that folder went in there, and so now it's like quick access to that folder that includes those, which was nice.
So I'm just going to see how it physically does it. So I drop in a folder. Yeah, so it does still work as a folder. So obviously, what I'm not 100% sure of, yeah, it does look like it's making a copy. It's not linking to that folder. It's actually inside the note. So once you've done that, the original, if I delete this folder, the folder here should still exist. So obviously you need to be conscious of that, because if you make a lot of changes in one of the folders that you've dragged in, they're not going to be reflected in the copy that you've got in notes. So remember that they're always going to be a separate version of that folder.
Thank you.
That's cool that you can use it as a file storage system, I guess, in that way.
My concern with the notes is how large can you make this? Because you can obviously put so much into it that it balloons to the point where it's not functional.
I remember I did read somewhere once, there was a size limit. Notes. Because of course it's also doing it all through the cloud as well. So anything that gets so big might get really, really slow. Have a Google. Okay. Is there a limit to the size of a note? Let me answer the question. Really, it's file size limit rather than note size limit, isn't it?
Yes. Wow.
There does not seem to be a limit to the size of a note. 23 images in one note documentation. I guess it's just keep adding stuff until you break it. As with everything at Apple, they don't really like to talk about their limitations, so they never really say about things like that, which is a bit silly. And this is a fairly old forum, so they're basically saying that there isn't really a limit. I guess it's streaming stuff as you're using it, so it probably doesn't need to load everything all the time. It's just as when you're doing stuff on your phone, it's just if you're accessing a note, then it's only really worrying about that note at that time. So it's probably got some clever stuff going on to hot swap data around all the time. But I imagine there probably is a limit where it would start to really get slow at loading stuff. Oh, here we go. Someone's got maximum attachments reached. Maximum attachments reached, but what is the maximum attachment? There is no. They just don't know. There is a limit, but nobody knows what it is. Let's see what everyone else has said here. Stop behaving like Microsoft. Oh dear. Yeah, might need to do some more research on that one. So I personally wouldn't use Notes as my entire file storage system. I just wouldn't. I don't think it's really reliable enough for that. But what it is really good is for grouping relevant documents together if you're working on a project or working on a recipe or working on something separate. And then you can use it as a hub to store like the pages file and the PDF version and some pictures and group all that stuff together. What if I've got time? How long do we have left?
You have about 20 minutes.
Okay, I might have enough time to jump into Freeform, which is a new app on Macs and iPhones, and it kind of shares a lot of similarities to Notes, but it's a visual note-taking app. So yes, so that was PDFs. Let's go back to my presentation that isn't being presented. Pin notes, lines and grids. Oh yes, so lines and grids, I forgot to say. When you're writing a note, you can add lines and grids. And they are in, I always forget where they are, format. Put it out. Oops. Just totally left my mind. How you do? Okay, it's in that other menu, which I don't have. File. No format. More, no. Table, font, text. I might be going crazy, but it seems to have completely gone from my notes app. Let's have a look. Mac OS notes. Oop. Okay, so No, that's just on the phone.
Is it iOS only?
I didn't think it was, but it could be, you know. I can't imagine why it would only be iOS. Yeah, iOS. I got on my phone. Let's have a look. New note. Lines and grids. Yeah, see, I think it's only on the phone. That's a bit mad. But basically, the lines and grids options on your phone and iPad just gives you kind of the impression that you're using paper. So the background will have these. I show you on this page. The background will have these options as a background paper. So you can have squared, lined, and it's just different sizes of those. And that's also an example of the tools that would come up if you had an Apple Pencil with an iPad tablet. That you can annotate more in notes with. So the next thing I'll talk about with notes is quick notes. So quick notes were introduced, I think, about 2 operating systems ago. By default, quick notes are set by just going to the bottom right corner of your screen. So let me hide these things. So I don't know if you can see on my screen, but when I go to the bottom right, a tiny little corner pops up. And I can click on it and it just instantly creates a new note. So this is a quick note. And that's really useful when you're just doing something on the web and you don't have notes open and you just want to quickly take a note down. So if I go into Safari and copy something, quick note. And then I can add a link to the current website. So those quick notes, when you make them, get put into its own section to tell you that there's something that you've just done on the fly. So it tends to be just really scrappy things that aren't really properly fully edited notes or anything. They're just things that you've kind of had to quickly jot down throughout the day. So I find it really useful for things like that when you're on the phone, having to quickly take down a number or an account number or something like that. On your iPad, it's done by just tapping anywhere on the screen with a pencil at any point on the iPad when it's locked, and it will automatically go straight into a quick note. I'm not sure about quick notes on an iPhone. No, iPhone. Quick note thumbnail. Oh, it's just sharing to notes basically, which has already existed, so it's not really much quicker. But on a Mac, it's quite quick. You just literally pop down to that corner, and there it is. Left scribble. We have data detection. So if I, for example, let's get a flight number. Let's look for London to Spain. Let's just find any old flight. So Apple for quite a while now has had data detectors. There we go, that was my flight that was delayed. So if I just copy my flight number, in theory, it doesn't always work for me, but in theory, it should have a live link to the flight number. So if I just do F1. No.
It's because it's Ryanair, Brad. You probably have to pay.
Yeah, I have to pay an extra premium for that. I think for US people, that's Spirit to you, Spirit Airlines.
Oh my goodness, that's a bad word.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So now you know what Ryanair is. What are the data detectors? So data detectors will be.
Are they the same like when you're in Apple Mail and you hover over it in
Exactly, when you
link
hover over
icon?
it, appears, and it will take you to the information that's relevant to it. What data? Dates, times, contact information. So yeah, if it's an email address, it should. Of course, I don't have any data in this account, so it's not going to show anything really. But it would normally pop up and show that this person's a contact, that kind of stuff. So the data detectors should, yeah. Oh yeah, I got it on my thing. Recognizes phone numbers, addresses, dates, and email addresses. So if you type an email address, it'll allow you to start an email straight from that note. You just click on the email address and open it up, or start a FaceTime call. Or if you type a date, so if I do, I don't know, Tuesday, 2nd October, it should. Oh, why is it not help?
Yes.
Oops. No,
There
we
you
go.
are.
Here we go. But it thinks it's a contact. I don't know why. 02, 10, 2023. Okay, my Mac is doing weird things, but it thinks that this is a contact. But basically, in a nutshell, that's what data detectors are supposed to do, is just link to relevant information, but doesn't want to for me in this case, but it usually works. It works really well on my phone, but for some reason on this Mac, on my account, it's not really doing what it's supposed to do. I wonder if I just type in flight. Nope. Well, that's fun. One last thing about notes generally is one of the most newest features is the ability to link from one note to another. And that seems like a small thing, but it basically means that you can then turn your note system into a full database if you want to be that involved. So we looked at hashtags and linking with a tag, but you can also, if I go to add link, where is it? View, edit, add link. It says enter a URL or a note title. So if I just search for one of my note titles, so chicken stew, I can link directly in to that note. And then within that note, I can then link to another note. So you can see that you can build like a big tree of notes going between each other. And you could create a really complicated and sophisticated way of storing your information and retrieving it. I think Rob's got his hand up. Hello, Rob.
But I have a comment about that first before you respond to Rob. There needs to be a way to actually go back when you do that.
So you obviously put the link in to go back. So in this case, I'd have to put the link again.
Let me show you a shortcut for that.
I prefer quick short, to be honest.
It's been a wonderful time over here. Press cancel. Press cancel. Shift right arrow twice on your keyboard.
Oh.
Shift right arrow twice. 1, 2.
Not doing it on mine.
On your keyboard, shift key, right arrow on the keyboard. Okay, your notes is acting weird today.
The European keyboard.
Okay, if you the arrow above the P symbol. The arrow above the period. I'm sorry.
Arrow above the period. Oh.
That twice. One more time.
Yes.
There you are.
There we go. Chicken curry. Yeah, that is quicker, isn't it?
Yeah.
Didn't do it then. I have to do a space. Yeah, so you can jump between.
Yes.
So that could keep you busy for a very long time.
Yes, it will. All right, Rob, can you ask your question? Rob, yes.
Actually, I tested the whole thing with the lines and grids. I put a few pictures from the iPhone. It also works on the iPad. What was interesting when I created it on the iPad and then I opened it up on my Mac, there is no grid.
I think that's why I use, because I've got a few notes which have it on my Mac. And I was like, surely you must be able to do it on your Mac too. But no, it will only show the lines and grids if you've already initiated that on your phone or iPad first, which is very bizarre, isn't it? Because obviously it's able to do it. So why can't you do it on a Mac? I'm not sure what their reasoning is there. Another little tip is I make templates for things. So my counselling notes, because I'm studying to be a counsellor at the moment, I'm doing a master's. I have to do this repetitive thing every time I take notes. And rather than having to write all this out every time and then change it, I've just saved stuff with a tag for templates. And then I just duplicate this note whenever I need to redo, and then I file it in the right place. So you can use tags to kind of mean whatever you want, really, but I use them as a way to kind of just have a section of templates. And then I've made a smart folder that just shows all the templates that I've made. So yeah, there's lots of ways that you can play with notes to kind of mold it into what you want to use it for. I guess that's really me for notes. If there's any like general questions about it you want to ask, feel free.
Michael Skapik, you have a question?
No, I don't.
Okay. Any other questions?
I think the only last thing I'll add is have a quick look at free.
You have 5 minutes. Do you have enough time to?
Enough time. I think I got enough time.
All right, go ahead.
So Freeform was added a bit like U2 albums in the past to iPods without anybody wanting it necessarily. So it was added to all Apple devices recently. And it's a way of making visual kind of mood boards. So you can create, basically a mood board. So if I, for example, have used it to help design a room in your house. So if I look up, I don't know, wallpaper, find a picture, drag a picture in, and then do some text. This is the wallpaper I like. And add a shape. So you can build this, and it's in an infinite workspace. So you can make it as big as you need it to be. And it allows you to basically just create a kind of diagram-based note, if you like. And it works in a very similar way to notes. And you can add collaborators, you can do stuff, you can add files into them as well. So if you just want like a hub space where people can access everything. So you could, for example, have a public I forgot what it's called, a public freeform board for the Mac user group where you just chuck everything that's relevant to what's going on. So it's a kind of hybrid of notes and maybe kind of websites and that kind of thing. So you can have a look, but I would definitely explore it. It's really useful if you're working with anything visual, or if you need to build diagrams or any kind of organization charts or that kind of thing. And it kind of works quite well with notes, and all the tools are pretty much the same. And let me turn connectors back on so you can connect things together as well. So yeah, that's on all devices. So it's on Macs, iPhones, and iPads, and it's just this little kind of squiggly freeform icon that a lot of people have just noticed on their device, just popped up. Okay, I think that's it.
All right. Do we have any more questions for Brad?
Anyone?
Anyone?
It can be Let me check that.
I don't see any hands raised, and I don't see any additional questions. So with that, I would please like everyone to unmute yourself and thank Brad for such a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Brad.
Very much.
Very practical.
Oh, so many thank yous. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Okay. All right. With that, I'm going to hand it back to Mike. Mike.
Hey, Brad, I need to just stop your share if I may. It's mine. You really are extraordinary, Brad, because every time you come and do a talk, and we've seen loads here in Suffolk, because obviously Brad lives just down the road in London, and I swear, if you spent 90 minutes talking about the telephone directory, I'd still learn something. Thank you so much. Really, really good session. Thank you. Folks, just a reminder that next week, excellent Mike Matthews is back with us. The topic is called Keep Your Focus. And as you see, it's about kind of focus mode on your iPhone, so that your iPhone basically will stop running your life for you. We look forward very much to seeing you in a week's time. And in the meantime, please enjoy the new message board. Please post if you have any issues with the new message board, because we really, really want to know about them as soon as possible. And we look forward to seeing you all again next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Well.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.